It's not the price you pay, it's the value that you get.
It makes them feel good to not have cheap stuff to throw away.
Bad quality is inefficient.
Quality begins with intent.
The status quo is an opiate. Let's never underrate the power of a question asked by the right person of the right person.
The smartest companies have realized they can get much more efficient, much more productive factories that meet higher quality standards and that continuously improve in their quality through a different strategy.
Quality goes way beyond product at Patagonia. It's everything to us. Pretty much it's how we describe anything that works well. I've been the quality director at Patagonia for over 20 years now, and as our quality efforts have evolved, we've learned to think of quality as a concept in very broad terms. I also travel for Patagonia to manage production quality throughout the world, and we thought we'd take advantage of some of that travel to talk to people in factories, factory owners, academics, educators, and sustainability experts about their views on the concept of quality.
The two critical links are the consumer's hand, where the quality is judged, and the hand of the person who makes it.
What consumers think of quality has changed radically, I think, over the last decade or so, to include not just a product's efficacy or performance or how long it lasts, but that it begins to embody other things about how healthy the product is, how safe the product is, how environmentally sound the product is.
My absolute belief is that you cannot make a fine product in an unhappy factory. It simply doesn't happen. You know, to take a little 10 or 15 denier fabric and push it through 500 pounds of cast iron and steel, you know, operating at a few thousand cycles per minute, it just doesn't happen by mistake.
And a narrow view is if I invest more in the quality of work life, my profits are going to be less. Yet there's example after example after example that just the opposite is true.
由于灯光很暗，员工呢可能在去做整个拼缝对位的时候，他会感觉到很吃力，而且可能容易产生一些偏差。当我给他增加了一个特殊的一个就是小型的一个工作灯的时候，他告诉我，他说他非常感激我，他觉得可能就是说他能够快速度的能够就是执行到整个就是生产的一个定位，能够让他的产量有了很大的一些提升。
You can't make a Ferrari at General Motors. You make a Ferrari in a Ferrari plant. And to consistently reproduce Ferraris, you must have proper equipment. Not only equipment, but you must have proper training for the assembly line workers to actually use the equipment. Short answer, no, you can't make a good quality product in a dirty, dark factory.
What we learned is that quality is actually a process and systems issue, which makes sense, but it also means you have a responsibility for the entire process.
Workers are losing fingers in a factory in China, and the accident rate is going up. You say, well, that's this, bastard factory manager in China is working them too long. Well, let's see, what's the root cause? Well, it turns out they're working until 2 a.m. because of a delivery time requirement. They say, well, why do they have this delivery time? Well, it turns out the designer in San Francisco changed her style at the last minute. And that forced, a delay, which forced them to have to work 24 hours a day to meet the delivery time because a designer actually caused it.
This basically commodification of human beings in order to produce the lowest cost produces the lowest cost thing and the highest cost civilization in the sense of the costs that we pay for crime and poverty and for environmental degradation and for sprawl.
In the conversations, it became increasingly difficult to separate quality issues from social issues, from environmental issues. They just blended together as one issue.
I don't know how you can say or compartmentalize social responsibility from environmental responsibility, from a commitment to quality. I don't know how you can separate those.
If in your definition of quality is this thing of benign with respect to the environment, as it is in our case, then pollution is the anathema. It's just the opposite of quality.
People have defined it from a consumption point of view, which is it holds up, it's durable, it works. But in fact, from a biological point of view or from a scientific point of view, that has nothing to do with quality, because that's just looking at the output and not the result of that output. The concentration of matter, of fiber, or plastic, or metals, or whatever it is to create the product or service can't exceed the rate at which nature can deal with the dissipation caused by it.
One surprise is that the role of the customer kept coming up as a conscience and as a driver. Customers have much more access to information these days, they're much more knowledgeable, and as a result, they're much more demanding.
Our customers are our conscience. I mean, they ask the question before we ask it of ourselves, what's your company doing for the environment? It's the customers who put us on this track in the first place, because we had no answers. And it was in seeking answers that we saw the light, and just how bad we really were and how far we had to go.
你说再讲到第3点的话，因为目前整个就是节能环保已经是世界性的一些课题了。那我相信，如果我们确实能够做到一个节能环保的一个工厂，整个就是工作环境非常舒适的一个工厂，我相信会有更多的一些品牌的客人会把订单纷纷的可能下到我们的工厂。那所以我觉得这对于我们后期的一些发展会有非常大的一些可能就是推动性的一些意义吧。
I would say almost no companies are ready for the level of transparency that's coming. This is one of many applications that basically take this new technology and allow you to scan a barcode. And literally, any consumer walk into a store in the aisle and in under a second get information on the health, environmental, social performance of the product.
You should have the right to be told this was made by a 12-year-old Indian girl who works 15 hours a day for a bowl of rice. You should have that right to know that. Then it becomes your choice. It must be transparent. I want people, my customer, your customer, I want them to know what's going on. I want them to know the bad side and the good side.
So as consumers and as producers, we're able to create a critical mass much faster, because we vote when we're consumers, and we can also influence what's going on in the organizations in which we work as producers.
In these conversations, there didn't seem to be any lack of understanding about the tools and strategies for improving quality or social conditions or the environment. It seemed to be more of a management philosophy issue. Just how do you engage people in the process and in the opportunity, not just for themselves, but for the companies that they work in and for the world?
And I was missing the whole concept of the you gotta wanna, okay? I was missing the whole concept of, I could process them to the point of doing anything they really wanted to, and what I was doing was processing out intelligence. I was not getting their contributions in terms of a work order system. I was getting labor, and I was getting overhead, I was getting material, but I wasn't getting, the intellectual capacity that a human being has when they're in an environment and they make something. Remember the phrase, who knows how to do the job better than the person that's doing the job?
It's so obvious now when you say, empower the workers to see any defect when it's at their step in the production and pull the cord, stop the line, and fix the defect before it ends up in the finished product.
The great factories, the great brands, the great work teams understand that quality, productivity, and a sustainable workplace for the family and for the community of workers are all one and the same.
I learn a lot, and I can bring home a lot of the great idea for my kid, for my family, and when I come back home, I will always talk with my husband as well, how we work.
Everything from the top of the organization all the way through the supply chain starts to become a cohesive, connected system. And that's where the real efficiency, the real effectiveness, and the real joy in work starts to come from.
We dumb people down by job descriptions and evaluations and repeatable processes, okay? But we never stopped and thought about the fact is that instead of asking them to make a great product and great service, why don't we ask them to make a great company, okay? Because listen, here's what happens, is that if you appeal to a higher level of thinking in people, they will give you higher levels of performance.
Maslow said it a long time ago. The very top of the pyramid of human needs is this need for self-actualization, which translates into being associated with a higher purpose, something bigger than ourselves.
I work from my heart, no one pushing me. It's no one pushing me have to work harder and harder. It's come from inside myself. We have the good working place, good environment, and why not we taking care of that and then make it even better and better.
Starting where they were, using what they have, doing what they can, they achieved much more than they ever thought was possible. And once you see that happening, you become unstoppable. And that makes a profound change in the world.
There's no limit to the power of influence. So creating the example, lifting it up, proving the better way, attracting other companies to it, that's how the transformation of the industrial system will happen.
So the need seems to be to get beyond just using accountability for short-term goals like hitting a cost target or a delivery date or even an environmental regulation, in favor of using more collaborative approaches that recognize the opportunities throughout the entire process. In the simplest sense, it might mean a factory engaging its employees in improving a process until it's as productive and profitable and joyful as possible. In our case, it might mean developing products that simultaneously recognize the opportunities in fabric manufacture, design, and production as one problem. And to do that without fearing that that level of collaboration or inclusiveness is going to somehow limit us. Knowledge is never limiting. So as simple as it sounds, this is Patagonia's challenge. It is the management challenge, and in reality, the sustainability challenge of the century.